The evening air was thick with the scent of garlic and basil as I pushed through the heavy wooden doors of Salvatore's, the most exclusive Italian restaurant in Manhattan. My shoes, secondhand but polished to a shine, clicked against the marble floor as I approached the hostess stand. The interior was exactly as I had imagined from the outside, all dark wood paneling, white tablecloths, and soft golden lighting that made everyone look beautiful and wealthy. I was neither, but I was here anyway, desperate and out of options. My name is Elena Rodriguez, and at 25 years old, I had learned that desperation makes you do things you never imagined possible, like walking into a restaurant far above my pay grade to beg for a job I was not qualified for. But my rent was 3 weeks overdue, my student loans were in default, and the collection agencies had started calling my grandmother in San Juan. That last part was what pushed me over the edge. Abuela did not need that stress, not with her heart condition. I had seen the discreet help wanted sign in the window 2 days ago while walking past. Server position. Experience required. It was not much, but it was something. And I had waited tables before, back in college, at a diner where the customers tipped in quarters and the coffee was always burnt. This would be different. This was the kind of place where Wall Street executives brought their mistresses and mob bosses held court. But money was money, and I needed it badly. "Excuse me," I said to the hostess, a tall woman with severe cheekbones and an expression that suggested I was already wasting her time. "I am here about the server position. Is the manager available?" She looked me up and down, taking in my department store dress and nervous energy. "Do you have experience in fine dining?" "I have restaurant experience," I hedged. 2 years at a diner in Queens, and I am a fast learner. I speak English and Spanish fluently, if that helps. The hostess's expression softened almost imperceptibly. The owner prefers bilingual staff. Many of our guests are Italian or Spanish speaking. She gestured toward a hallway. "Wait in the back office. I will get the manager." I followed her directions to a small, cramped office that smelled of old coffee and paper. I perched on the edge of a folding chair, rehearsing what I would say. "I am reliable. I am hardworking. I will do whatever it takes. Please, just give me a chance." 15 minutes passed, then 30. I was beginning to think the hostess had forgotten about me when a short, balding man burst through the door, barely glancing at me as he rifled through papers on the cluttered desk. "You are Elena Rodriguez." He had a thick Italian accent that made my name sound exotic rather than common. "Yes, sir." I stood, extending my hand. "Thank you for seeing me." He shook my hand briefly, still not really looking at me. "Maria says you speak Spanish. Good Spanish or high school Spanish?" "I am Puerto Rican. Spanish was my first language. I can speak it as well as I speak English." "Good. We have many South American clients. Too many of my servers only know menu Italian." He finally looked at me properly. "You worked at a diner?" "Yes, sir. For 2 years during college. I was reliable, never missed a shift, and I was good with customers." "This is not a diner, Miss Rodriguez. This is Salvatore's. Our clientele expects perfection. One mistake and you are out. Understood?" "Understood," I said, trying to project confidence I did not feel. "You start tomorrow, 4 p.m. Wear all black, comfortable shoes, hair pulled back. Maria will train you. Do not be late." He was already turning back to his papers, dismissing me. "Thank you, sir. I will not let you down." I floated out of the restaurant, relief making me giddy. A job. An actual job at a fancy restaurant where the tips would be substantial. Maybe I could finally get ahead, pay off some debt, stop the collection calls to Abuela. For the first time in months, I felt something like hope. That optimism lasted exactly until my first shift. Maria, the hostess who had grudgingly softened toward me, turned out to be a harsh taskmaster. She spent 3 hours drilling me on the menu, which was entirely in Italian with no translations. By the end of training, my head was spinning with unfamiliar words. Osso buco, saltimbocca, pappardelle al cinghiale. She corrected my pronunciation ruthlessly, making me repeat words until they sounded right. "The customers here are not forgiving," she said, as we polished wine glasses before the dinner service. "They expect you to know what you are talking about. If you recommend the wrong wine pairing or mispronounce a dish, they will complain. And if they complain, Antonio will fire you on the spot. No second chances at Salvatore's. I will be perfect," I promised, though anxiety was already coiling in my stomach. The dining room began filling around 6 p.m. I was assigned to Section 3, 4 tables near the back of the restaurant. Not the prime real estate, but Maria said new servers always started in the less visible sections until they proved themselves. My first few tables went smoothly, a couple celebrating an anniversary, a group of businessmen who barely looked at me as they ordered, an elderly woman dining alone who asked my opinion on the pasta, which I provided nervously, hoping I remembered Maria's coaching correctly. I was beginning to think I might actually survive my first night when Maria approached me, her expression tense. Table 12 just sat. She kept her voice low. VIP section. Senor Dante Vittorio and his associates. You will be serving them tonight. My stomach dropped. Me? But I am new. Should not someone more experienced handle VIP tables? Antonio wants you specifically. She glanced toward the kitchen. Senor Vittorio is... She paused, searching for words. Very important. Do exactly as he asks. Be polite, be efficient, and do not, under any circumstances, interrupt their conversation or linger at the table. Serve and disappear. Understand? I nodded, my mouth suddenly dry. Who is Dante Vittorio? Maria's eyes widened slightly. You really do not know? She shook her head. Better that way, perhaps. Just be very careful, Elena. Very careful. She walked away before I could ask what she meant, leaving me to gather menus and approach table 12 with trembling hands. The table was in a corner, slightly elevated and separated from the main dining room by decorative screens that provided an illusion of privacy. 6 men sat around it, all in expensive suits that probably cost more than my entire yearly income. But my attention was immediately drawn to the man at the head of the table. He was younger than I expected for someone Maria treated with such deference, perhaps 35, with dark hair combed back from a strong, angular face. His suit was charcoal gray, perfectly tailored to broad shoulders, but it was his eyes that held me frozen, dark, almost black, and intensely focused. When those eyes turned to me as I approached, I felt like a specimen under a microscope, every flaw suddenly visible. Good evening, gentlemen, I managed, proud that my voice did not shake. My name is Elena, and I will be serving you tonight. May I start you with something to drink? The man, Dante Vittorio, I assumed, continued to study me for a long moment before speaking. His voice was low, controlled, with an accent that suggested Italian parents but an American upbringing. Bring us a bottle of the Barolo, 2005, and menus, though I suspect most of us know what we want. Of course, sir. I distributed menus, acutely aware of his gaze following my movements. I will bring the wine right away. In the wine cellar, which was really just a climate-controlled room off the kitchen, I found the Barolo he had requested. My hands shook slightly as I read the price tag. $850 for 1 bottle of wine. I carried it back to table 12 like I was transporting nitroglycerin. Dante Vittorio watched as I presented the bottle, his expression unreadable. I opened it with the corkscrew, trying to remember everything Maria had taught me about proper wine service. To my relief, the cork came out cleanly. I poured a small amount into his glass and stepped back, waiting for his approval. He swirled the wine, inhaled its scent, then tasted it. A slight nod was my only indication that it was acceptable. I poured for the rest of the table, then retreated to take their dinner orders. The meal service went smoothly, or as smoothly as could be expected given my inexperience and nerves. I delivered courses, cleared plates, refilled wine glasses, all while trying to be invisible as Maria had instructed. The men talked in low voices, sometimes in English, sometimes in Italian. I caught fragments, business negotiations, names I did not recognize, numbers that seemed astronomical. It was during dessert service that everything changed. I had just delivered a tiramisu to the table and was turning to leave when one of the men, a heavy-set older gentleman with gold rings on every finger, called me back. Miss, this spoon is dirty. His English was heavily accented, and he gestured irritably at the dessert spoon I had placed beside his plate. I am so sorry, sir. I will bring you a clean one right away. I hurried toward the kitchen, my heart pounding. A dirty spoon. Such a small mistake. But Maria had warned me that small mistakes mattered here. I grabbed a clean spoon and was heading back when I nearly collided with Carlos, one of the busboys I had met during training. Carlos was from Ecuador, spoke almost no English, and had been kind to me during my training period, helping me understand the restaurant's layout and workflow. He looked panicked, gesturing toward something in the dish room. Elena, he said urgently in Spanish. I need help. I broke a bottle. Wine everywhere. Antonio will kill me if he sees. Please, can you tell him it was your fault? You are new. He will be less angry with you. His desperation was palpable. I glanced toward table 12, where the man with the dirty spoon was waiting, then back at Carlos, whose eyes were pleading. Okay, I said quickly in Spanish. I will tell Antonio it was my fault. Go clean it up. I will cover for you. But you owe me, Carlos. Big time. Thank you, Elena. Thank you. You are an angel. He rushed off toward the dish room. I took a breath, adjusted my grip on the clean spoon, and headed back toward table 12. I was 3 steps from the table when Dante Vittorio's voice stopped me cold. "Bring her to my office. Now." I froze, confused. I turned to see him looking directly at me, his expression unreadable, but his voice carrying absolute authority. The other men at the table had gone silent. All eyes on me. "Sir?" I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. "You speak Spanish." His statement, not a question. "Fluently. I heard you with the busboy." My mind raced. Had I done something wrong? Was speaking Spanish somehow against restaurant policy? "Yes, sir. I am Puerto Rican. Spanish is my first language." He stood, his full height imposing even from several feet away. "Come with me. We need to talk." "But sir, I have other tables. I cannot just leave my section. Your section will be covered." He gestured to one of his associates, who immediately pulled out a phone. "Now, Miss Rodriguez, please do not make me ask again." There was no threat in his voice, but the underlying authority made it clear that refusal was not an option. Maria appeared seemingly from nowhere, her face pale. "Go with him, Elena. I will handle your tables." I followed Dante Vittorio through the restaurant, acutely aware of every eye on us. Customers paused their conversations to watch. Staff members pressed themselves against walls to let us pass. He moved with the confidence of someone who owned not just this restaurant, but possibly the entire block. He led me up a flight of stairs I had not known existed, down a carpeted hallway, and into an office that was the complete opposite of Antonio's cluttered back room. This space was all clean lines and expensive furniture. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. A massive desk dominated one end, its surface empty except for a laptop and a single pen. Dante closed the door behind us and gestured to a leather chair facing the desk. "Sit." I sat, my hands clasped tightly in my lap to stop them from shaking. He moved to a bar cart in the corner and poured 2 glasses of what looked like scotch. He handed one to me. "I do not drink on duty, sir. This is not a request, Miss Rodriguez. Drink. It will help with your nerves." I took the glass, the crystal heavy and expensive in my hand. I sipped cautiously. The scotch burned going down but settled warm in my stomach. Dante took his own seat behind the desk, studying me with those intense dark eyes. "Tell me about yourself, Elena Rodriguez, and do not leave anything out." "I do not understand, sir. Did I do something wrong?" "I know the spoon was dirty, and I am sorry about that. It will not happen again." "The spoon." He waved a dismissive hand. "I do not care about the spoon. I care about why a server who has been here for exactly 1 shift is fluent enough in Spanish to have a rapid conversation with a busboy, is comfortable enough to promise to take the blame for his mistake, and is desperate enough to work in a place like this despite clearly being terrified the entire evening." I stared at him, unsure how to respond, because everything he said was accurate, and his perception was unsettling. "I need the job," I said finally. "My rent is overdue, my loans are in default, and I have been applying everywhere for months. Salvatore's was willing to hire me. That is all. That is not all." He leaned back in his chair, still watching me. "Where did you go to college?" "City University. I studied education. I wanted to be a teacher." "Wanted? Past tense?" "I graduated 3 years ago. Could not find a teaching position. Too many applicants, not enough jobs. I have been working whatever I can find since then. Retail, food service, anything to pay bills." "And your family?" he asked. "You mentioned someone named Abuela in your conversation with Carlos. Your grandmother? How much had he heard?" "In Puerto Rico. She raised me after my parents died. I send her money when I can, but lately, I have not been able to send much. That is why I need this job, Senor Vittorio. I will work hard. I will be perfect. Please do not fire me for speaking Spanish to Carlos. He needed help, and I stopped, realizing how this looked. I know it was wrong to promise to take the blame for him. I should not have done that. But he was so scared, and I could not just ignore him. To my surprise, something that might have been approval flickered across Dante's face. "So you are loyal, willing to protect someone even at cost to yourself. That is rare, especially in my world." "Your world, sir?" He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "Let us not pretend you do not understand what this restaurant is, Miss Rodriguez. Salvatore's is not just a fine dining establishment. It is a place where certain business is conducted. Business that requires discretion, loyalty, and absolute trust." I swallowed hard, my worst fears confirmed. Maria's warnings, the deference everyone showed Dante Vittorio, the fragments of conversation I had overheard. This was not just a restaurant. It was a front for something else, something illegal, something dangerous. "I just want to serve tables and earn tips," I said quietly. "I do not want to be involved in anything else. Unfortunately, You already are involved. He set down his scotch. The moment you walked into my restaurant speaking fluent Spanish, the moment I saw you protect that busboy without hesitation, you became interesting to me. And when I find something interesting, Miss Rodriguez, I do not let it go. I do not understand what you want from me. My voice was barely above a whisper. I have a problem. He stood and moved to the windows, looking out at the glittering city below. I do business with several South American organizations, Colombians mostly, some Venezuelans. Their English is adequate, but not perfect. My Spanish is conversational at best. I need someone I can trust to handle communication, someone fluent, someone intelligent, someone who needs this job badly enough to be loyal. You want me to be a translator? I asked, confused. Among other things. He turned back to face me. I need an assistant, Miss Rodriguez. Someone to coordinate with my South American contacts, to take messages, arrange meetings, handle correspondence, to be my eyes and ears when I cannot be present. The pay would be substantial, far more than you would make as a server. I do not know anything about your business. I would not even know where to start. That is actually an advantage. You have no preconceptions, no loyalties to anyone else. You would be working directly for me, learning from me. And in exchange for your loyalty and discretion, I would ensure you are well compensated. Your rent would never be late again. Your grandmother would receive the best medical care money can buy. Your student loans would disappear. He was offering me everything I needed, everything I had been struggling to achieve for years. And all I had to do was work for a man who was clearly involved in organized crime, be complicit in whatever illegal activities he conducted, compromise every moral principle I had been raised with. I cannot, I started to say. Before you refuse, he interrupted. Consider the alternative. You walk away from this office, return to your serving tables for minimum wage and hoping for tips. How long before you are evicted? How long before your grandmother's medical bills overwhelm her? How long before desperation drives you to something far worse than working for me? His words cut, because they were true. I was barely surviving. One bad month, one unexpected expense, and I would be homeless. And Abuela needed medications and doctor visits I could not afford to help pay for. What exactly would I be doing? I asked, hating myself for even considering this. Initially, translation work, phone calls, emails, the occasional meeting. As you learn the business, your responsibilities would expand. But nothing illegal, Miss Rodriguez. I am not asking you to break the law, just to help me communicate more effectively with business partners who speak Spanish. If it is not illegal, why all the secrecy? Why the warnings about discretion and loyalty? Because my business has many layers, some legitimate, some less so. But the communication work I am offering you would be entirely above board. Import and export coordination with South American partners, all legal, all documented. You would not be at risk legally. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to think that I could take his money and keep my conscience clear. But something in his tone suggested that lines would blur quickly once I was inside his world. I need time to think about this, I said finally. You have until tomorrow evening. He moved to his desk and pulled out a business card, writing something on the back. This is my private number. Call me by 8 p.m. tomorrow with your decision. If I do not hear from you, I will assume the answer is no, and you can continue serving tables. But Elena, he fixed me with that intense stare. Understand that this opportunity will not be offered twice. Choose carefully. I took the card, my fingers trembling. May I go? Of course. He opened the door. One of my men will drive you home. It is late, and this neighborhood is not always safe. That is not necessary. I can take the subway. I insist. Consider it a small preview of how I treat those who work for me. I take care of my people, Miss Rodriguez. Remember that when you are making your decision. A car was indeed waiting when I exited the restaurant. A black sedan with tinted windows, and a driver who did not speak as he navigated through late-night Manhattan traffic to my apartment building in Queens. I stumbled upstairs to my studio apartment, my mind spinning. I could not sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Dante's business card on the nightstand beside me. In the morning, I would have to decide, safety or morality, survival or principle. The choice should have been easy. But as dawn light filtered through my thin curtains, and I heard my phone buzzing with another call from a collection agency, I realized that the choice was not easy at all. If you have enjoyed Elena's story so far, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything, and helps me bring you more incredible stories like this one. Now, let us see what Elena decides. I spent the next day in a fog of indecision. I called Abuela, just to hear her voice, though I could not tell her what I was considering. She sounded tired, mentioned that her medications were getting more expensive, asked if I was eating enough. Her worry for me, even as she struggled herself, made my chest tight. After hanging up, I sat at my tiny kitchen table with a notebook, making 2 lists. Reasons to accept Dante's offer, reasons to refuse. The acceptance list grew longer with every passing minute. Financial security, help for Abuela, an end to the constant stress of barely surviving. The refusal list was shorter, but weighted with moral implications. Working for a criminal, becoming complicit in illegal activities, losing my integrity. By 7 p.m., I had not reached a conclusion. The business card sat on the table, Dante's handwritten number seeming to pulse with possibility and danger in equal measure. I picked up my phone 3 times to call, but could not make myself dial. At 7:45, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost did not answer, assuming it was another collection agency, but something made me pick up. Miss Rodriguez. Dante's voice was unmistakable. You have not called. I still have 15 minutes before your deadline. I kept my voice steady despite my racing heart. You do, but I suspect you are struggling with the decision. Am I correct? I paused, then decided honesty was the only option. Yes, this is not an easy choice. It should not be easy, he replied. If it were easy, you would not be the kind of person I want working for me. The fact that you are agonizing over this tells me you have principles, morals, a conscience. Those qualities are rare and valuable. Then why do you want to drag someone with a conscience into your world? Would it not be easier to hire someone without those complications? Easier, yes, but less trustworthy. People without conscience are unpredictable, Miss Rodriguez. They can be bought by anyone willing to pay more. People with principles, however, once they commit to something, they commit fully. That loyalty is worth far more than simple amorality. I moved to my window, looking out at the street below. A homeless man was setting up his cardboard shelter in the doorway across from my building, a reminder of how quickly life could spiral downward. What if I accept and then realize I cannot do it? I asked. What if I get in too deep and want out? Then you come to me and we have a conversation. Dante's voice was surprisingly gentle. I am not a monster, Elena. I do not trap people in situations they cannot handle. But I do expect honesty. If you take this job and then betray me, share my business with authorities, or sell information to my competitors, there would be consequences. Severe consequences. But if you simply find the work too difficult or uncomfortable, we can discuss alternatives. That is not very reassuring. It is not meant to be. He replied bluntly. I am offering you an opportunity, not a fairy tale. There are risks, but there are also substantial rewards. The question you need to answer is whether you trust me enough to take that risk. I barely know you. How can I trust you? You cannot. Not yet. Trust is earned over time, but you can trust that I keep my word. When I say I will pay you well, I will. When I say I will protect you, I will. When I say I will help your grandmother, I will. I am many things, Miss Rodriguez, but I am not a liar. I checked the time. 7:58. 2 minutes to decide. 2 minutes to choose between the life I had and the life Dante Vittorio was offering. Between poverty with a clear conscience and prosperity with compromises I could not yet fully understand. If I do this, I said slowly, I need a guarantee. Something that protects me legally if anything goes wrong. I will not go to prison because I was naive enough to think I was just translating business calls. Reasonable. I will have my attorney draw up an employment contract that clearly defines your role and responsibilities. Nothing illegal, nothing that would put you at legal risk. You would be an independent contractor providing translation and communication services. All documented, all legitimate. And my grandmother? She gets the medical care you mentioned? A care facility here in New York, close enough for regular visits. The best doctors, the best treatment. All expenses covered. He was offering me everything, and in return, all he wanted was my skills, my loyalty, and my willingness to enter a world I knew I should avoid. Okay, I said before I could second-guess myself. I will do it. I accept your offer. There was a brief pause. Then Dante said, Good. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., come to the address I'm about to text you. Bring your passport, your social security card, and any other identification you have. My attorney will have the contracts ready. We will discuss your exact duties and compensation. And Elena, yes, welcome to my world. Try not to drown in it. He hung up before I could respond. A moment later, a text came through with an address in Midtown. No going back now. I had just agreed to work for Dante Vittorio, and I had no idea if I had made the best decision of my life or the worst mistake imaginable. The address Dante had texted turned out to be a high-rise office building in Midtown, all glass and steel, an expensive modern architecture. The lobby had security that would rival a bank, with guards checking identification and X-ray machines for bags. I gave my name to the front desk, half expecting to be turned away as a prank. Instead, the guard made a call, then nodded. Top floor. Someone will meet you at the elevator. The elevator was glass-walled, offering a view of the city as I ascended. By the time I reached the top floor, my nerves had transformed into something like resignation. I had made my choice. Now I would see where it led. The elevator doors opened to reveal a reception area that screamed understated wealth. Everything was clean lines, neutral colors, and furniture that probably cost more than my yearly income. A young woman in a crisp suit greeted me with a professional smile. "Miss Rodriguez, Mr. Vittorio is expecting you. This way, please." She led me down a corridor lined with abstract art to a conference room where Dante sat with an older man in wire-rimmed glasses. Both men stood as I entered. "Elena?" Dante said, gesturing to the other man. "This is Marcus Weissman, my attorney. He has prepared the contracts we discussed." I shook Marcus's hand, noting his assessing gaze. He saw right through me, I suspected, saw the desperation and the moral conflict. But his expression remained neutral as he gestured to a chair. "Please sit. Let us review the terms." The next hour was a crash course in legal language as Marcus walked me through the contract. Independent contractor providing translation and communication coordination services. Compensation of $100,000 per year, paid bi-weekly. Health insurance included. Additional performance bonuses at Dante's discretion. A clause about confidentiality, which was extensive and intimidating. Another clause about termination of services, which could be initiated by either party with 30 days' notice. "This seems straightforward," I said cautiously when Marcus finished. "Too straightforward for what I assumed I was getting into." "It is exactly what it appears to be," Marcus replied. "You are being hired to facilitate communication between Mr. Vittorio and his international business contacts. The work is legal and documented. However," he paused, "you should understand that discretion is paramount. Anything you see, hear, or learn while working for Mr. Vittorio remains confidential. Violation of that confidentiality would result in immediate termination and potential legal action." The threat was clear even if politely worded. I would see things, learn things that could never be shared, and if I tried to share them, there would be consequences that went beyond just losing my job. "I understand," I said, hoping I sounded more confident than I felt. "Good." Marcus slid the contract across the table with a pen. "If you are satisfied with the terms, sign here, and we can proceed." I picked up the pen, my hand hovering over the signature line. Last chance to back out. Last chance to return to my struggling but morally clear existence. I thought of Abuela, of the collection calls, of the homeless man in the doorway. Then I signed my name. Excellent. Dante took the signed contract and handed it to Marcus. "File that immediately." Then he turned to me. "Come with me, Elena. Time to see your new office." He led me further down the corridor to a smaller office with windows overlooking the city. A desk, a computer, a phone with more buttons than I could count. Everything new and expensive and intimidating. "This is yours," Dante said. "You will work here most days, though there will be occasions when I need you to accompany me to meetings or dinners. Your primary responsibilities are as follows." He counted on his fingers. 1. Handle all phone calls from my South American contacts. 2. Translate emails and documents. 3. Coordinate scheduling for meetings with Spanish-speaking associates. 4. Attend select business dinners to facilitate conversation. Questions so far? My head was spinning, but I shook it. No questions. Good. Your first task is to familiarize yourself with these files. He handed me a flash drive. These are profiles of my key South American contacts. Names, business interests, personal details. Study them. Know them. When these people call, I need you to understand who they are and what they want instantly. When do I start? You already have. He checked his watch. It is 9:30. You have until noon to review those files. Then I have a lunch meeting with a potential Colombian partner. You will join us to translate and take notes. Dress code is business professional. There is a boutique downstairs in the building. My assistant will take you there now to select appropriate attire. Put everything on my account. Wait, I cannot let you buy me clothes. That is, I stopped, realizing how ridiculous it sounded to protest when I had just accepted money to work for him. Elena. His voice was firm but not unkind. Part of this job is representing me professionally. That requires a certain appearance. Consider it a work expense. Now go with Sophia. She is waiting outside. Sophia turned out to be the woman who had greeted me earlier. She was efficient and no nonsense, as she led me to an upscale boutique on the building's ground floor, the kind of place where nothing had a price tag, because if you had to ask, you could not afford it. Mr. Vittorio wants business-appropriate attire, Sophia told the sales associate. 3 complete outfits to start. Charge everything to his account. The next hour was surreal. I was fitted with tailored suits, silk blouses, and shoes that probably cost more than my monthly rent used to be. The clothing transformed me, made me look competent and professional and like I belonged in Dante's world. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. Better, Sophia said approvingly when I emerged in one of the new suits, a charcoal gray that fit like it had been made for me. Now you look like someone Mr. Vittorio would have on his staff. Back in my new office, I plugged in the flash drive Dante had given me and began reading. The files were detailed and slightly terrifying. Names of men who were clearly not simple businessmen. Shipping companies that moved more than just legal cargo. Financial arrangements that seemed designed to obscure rather than clarify. And woven through everything, Dante Vittorio's name, his businesses, his connections. I was absorbing information about a man named Raul Mendoza, described as a commodities trader, which I suspected was code for something less legal, when Dante appeared in my doorway. Ready for lunch? He had changed into a different suit, this one navy blue and probably worth more than my college education. As ready as I will ever be, I admitted. What should I know about this meeting? We are meeting with Eduardo Restrepo. He represents agricultural interests in Colombia. We are discussing import arrangements. He gestured for me to follow him. Your job is simple. Listen. Translate when needed. Take notes. Do not offer opinions unless I ask for them directly. Understand? I understand. The restaurant where we met Eduardo was nearly as upscale as Salvatore's, with the same hushed atmosphere and deferential service. Eduardo turned out to be a distinguished man in his 60s, impeccably dressed and immediately charming. He greeted Dante warmly, then turned to me with interest. "And who is this lovely young woman?" he asked in Spanish. "This is Elena Rodriguez, my new assistant," Dante replied in English. "She will be helping us communicate more effectively." Bilingual, Eduardo said, switching smoothly to English. "How delightful. Your Spanish is native, I assume." "Yes, sir. I am Puerto Rican." "Excellent." He smiled warmly. "Then perhaps you can help me explain to Signor Vittorio the complexities of our proposal. My English is adequate, but for business matters, I prefer precision." The lunch proceeded with me translating technical discussions about shipping routes, customs procedures, and payment terms. The conversation seemed legitimate enough on the surface, though I caught occasional phrases that suggested layers beneath. References to special merchandise, mention of alternative documentation, vague allusions to discretionary shipping. By the time dessert arrived, my head was pounding from concentration and underlying anxiety. Eduardo seemed pleased with how things had gone, shaking Dante's hand warmly and kissing my cheek in the European style. "Your assistant is exceptional, Signor Vittorio. So rare to find someone who understands both the words and the context." He winked at me. "I look forward to working with you, Senorita Rodriguez." After he left, Dante turned to me. "Well done. You caught nuances even I missed. The way you clarified his questions about timeline, that likely saved us from a costly misunderstanding. So that was all legitimate? The shipping arrangements he was discussing?" Dante's expression was unreadable. "Does it matter, Elena? You translated what was said. You took notes on what was discussed. Whether the cargo is coffee beans or something else is not your concern. But it is, though, is it not?" I kept my voice low, aware of other diners nearby. "You brought me into this specifically because you need plausible deniability. If I do not know exactly what I am facilitating, I cannot be held responsible. Now you are understanding how this works." He stood, leaving cash on the table for the bill. "Come on, we have another meeting in an hour." The rest of the day was a whirlwind. 2 more meetings, both with Spanish-speaking contacts, both with conversations that seemed legitimate on the surface, but carried undercurrents I could not quite identify. Phone calls to arrange future meetings, emails to coordinate shipping schedules. By the time Dante dismissed me at 7 p.m., I was exhausted. "Go home," he said. "Tomorrow we will go over everything you learned today and start planning for next week." "You did well, Elena. Better than I expected for your first day." "Thank you," I said, gathering my things. "Mr. Vittorio?" "Yes? That contract I signed. The one that says I am just providing translation services. We both know that is not entirely accurate, is it?" He studied me for a long moment. "The contract is accurate, Miss Rodriguez. You are providing exactly the services described. What my associates choose to discuss in your presence, what you might infer or deduce from those conversations, that is not your responsibility. You are simply facilitating communication. Never forget that distinction. It might be what keeps you safe. Safe from whom? The authorities or from you? From everyone, including yourself. He moved to the door. A car is waiting downstairs to take you home. I will see you tomorrow at 9. That became my routine. Days spent in the office, translating calls and emails, evenings at dinners or meetings with Dante's Spanish-speaking associates. I met Colombian shipping magnates and Venezuelan import specialists and Argentinian financiers. I translated discussions about legitimate businesses, warehouses, and shipping routes, and I carefully did not think too hard about what was actually being discussed beneath the polite business language. The money was extraordinary. My first paycheck covered 3 months of back rent with money left over. I moved Abuela to a care facility in Queens, close enough to visit her twice a week. Her doctors were amazed at the improvement in her health once she had consistent medication and proper care. "You are doing so well, mija," she said during one visit, squeezing my hand with strength she had not had in months. "This new job must be very good." "It is, Abuela," I said, not quite lying. "They treat me well." What was harder to reconcile was how I felt about Dante himself. He was demanding, but never cruel, expected perfection, but acknowledged when I delivered it. And despite the obvious danger in his world, he made me feel safe, protected, valued in ways I had not experienced before. It was 6 weeks into my employment when everything shifted again. Dante called me into his office late one Friday evening. I had been preparing to leave, looking forward to a weekend of rest, when his summons came. I entered his office to find him standing by the windows, his posture tense in a way I had not seen before. "Something was wrong. We have a problem," he said without preamble. "One of my Colombian contacts believes I have been sharing information with a competitor. He thinks there is a leak in my organization." "Is there?" I asked. "No." His answer was immediate and certain, which means someone is deliberately creating the impression of a leak to damage my relationships. I need to find out who and why, and I need your help to do it. My help? What can I possibly do? You are going to Colombia with me. Next week. We are meeting with several associates to demonstrate that there is no leak, that communications are secure. Your presence, your translations, will be part of showing them that I take their business seriously. Colombia. I felt my stomach drop. That seems dangerous. It could be. He turned to face me fully, which is why you have the option to refuse. This is beyond the scope of what we discussed in your contract. If you say no, I will understand. But Elena, he moved closer. I need someone I can trust completely. And in the short time you have worked for me, you have proven yourself trustworthy. Will you come with me? I should have said no. Should have recognized this as the moment when I crossed from morally ambiguous into actively dangerous. But looking at Dante, seeing the genuine concern in his eyes mixed with something that looked like hope, I found myself nodding. "I will go, but you have to promise me something." "What?" "You have to promise that if things go wrong, if I am in real danger, you will get me out, get me home safely. I promise." His hand reached out, touching my arm briefly. "I protect what is mine, Elena, and you, whether you realize it or not, are mine now." The words should have terrified me. Instead, they sent an unexpected warmth through my chest. I belonged to someone, was protected by someone. After years of struggling alone, that felt good. Even if the someone was a man I suspected of running a criminal empire. We flew to Bogota 3 days later on a private plane that made commercial first class look like budget seating. Dante's security team, 4 men whose names I never learned, accompanied us. During the flight, Dante briefed me on the situation. The man who thinks there is a leak is Javier Cortez. He controls most of the shipping routes we use. If he decides to cut ties, it will cost me millions and potentially expose operations to scrutiny we do not want. Your job is to translate our meeting with him and his associates, but also to pay attention to nuances in their questions, to whether they seem genuinely concerned or if this is a negotiating tactic. "You want me to read them," I said, "to tell you if they are lying. I want your instincts. You are intelligent, observant, and you have no history with these men. They might reveal things to you, either deliberately or accidentally, that they would not reveal to me. If you are enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support helps me create more content like this. Now, let us see what happens when Elena arrives in Colombia. Bogota was beautiful and intimidating in equal measure. The city sprawled across a high-altitude plateau, modern buildings contrasting with colonial architecture, but we did not see much of it. From the airport, we were driven directly to a compound in the mountains outside the city, a massive estate surrounded by walls and armed guards. "This is Javier's home," Dante explained as we pulled through the gates. "He is old school, prefers to conduct business on his own territory where he feels in control. Be very careful what you say here, Elena. Every word will be analyzed." I nodded, my mouth dry with anxiety. We were escorted into a sprawling villa, where Javier Cortez waited in a room that was part office, part throne room. He was in his 70s, impeccably dressed, with the bearing of someone who had wielded power for decades. "Dante," he greeted in accented English. "Thank you for coming all this way, and this must be the assistant I have heard about. Javier Cortez. May I present Elena Rodriguez?" Dante's hand rested briefly on my back, a subtle gesture of protection and possession. "She has been instrumental in improving our communications." "Encantado, Señorita Rodriguez." Javier switched to Spanish. "Your reputation precedes you. I am told you have the gift of understanding not just words but intentions." "You are too kind, Señor Cortez," I replied in Spanish. "I simply try to facilitate clear communication. We shall see." He gestured to chairs around a large conference table. "Let us discuss this unfortunate misunderstanding about information leaks." The meeting lasted 4 hours. Javier and his associates, 3 younger men who watched everything with predatory intensity, questioned Dante extensively about security measures, communication protocols, and recent business dealings. I translated, took notes, and tried to read the room as Dante had asked. What struck me was how often Javier's questions focused on me, how long I had worked for Dante, whether I had access to sensitive information, who else I spoke with regularly. It felt less like vetting and more like probing, looking for weakness. During a break, I pulled Dante aside. "He is not really worried about a leak," I whispered. "He is testing you. Testing whether you have the infrastructure to handle larger operations. This whole crisis might be manufactured." Dante's eyes narrowed. "What makes you say that?" "The way his associates keep exchanging looks when you answer questions about capacity and reach. They are not concerned. They are impressed. I think Javier is considering expanding your partnership, but wanted to see how you would respond under pressure first. If you are right," Dante said slowly, "this changes everything. That is actually brilliant on his part. I would not have seen it." When the meeting resumed, Dante changed his approach. Instead of defending against accusations of a leak, he started discussing expansion opportunities, increased shipping capacity, new routes, larger volumes, and I watched as Javier's expression shifted from suspicious to satisfied. By the end of the meeting, they were shaking hands on a deal that doubled their existing arrangement. Javier pulled me aside as we were leaving. "You are very perceptive, Señorita Rodriguez," he said in Spanish. "Dante is fortunate to have you. Make sure he appreciates that fortune." "I am simply doing my job, Señor." "No." He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "You are doing much more than that. You are seeing the chessboard, not just the pieces. Be careful with that gift, querida. In this world, being too valuable can be as dangerous as being disposable." His words haunted me during the flight back to New York. Dante was quiet, processing the successful outcome. When we were finally alone in the cabin, he turned to me. "You were right. About everything. I owe you my thanks, and probably a substantial bonus. I was just paying attention, like you asked me to. You did more than pay attention." He moved to sit beside me. "You understood dynamics I completely missed. That is extraordinary, Elena, and valuable beyond measure." Javier said something similar. I met his eyes. He also said that being too valuable in your world can be dangerous. Dante's expression hardened. "Did he threaten you?" "No, not exactly. Just warned me about the risks of being indispensable. He is right to warn you, but not for the reasons you think." Dante took my hand, his touch warm and surprisingly gentle. "The danger is not from me, Elena. I protect what is valuable to me. The danger is from others who might try to take you, use you against me, or eliminate you if they see you as too much of a threat to their own interests. That is not very reassuring. It is not meant to be. This world, my world, it is not safe. It never will be. But I can make you as safe as possible within it, if you let me." "What does that mean?" "It means you move out of your apartment in Queens. I have a secure building in Manhattan. You would have your own floor, complete privacy, but with 24-hour security. It means you have a driver who is also trained in protection. It means you never go anywhere alone until we are certain that your involvement with me has not made you a target." I pulled my hand back. "That sounds like a gilded cage, Dante. It sounds like survival. His voice was firm. "Elena, after today, you are not just my translator. You are my advisor, my strategist. People will notice that. People will wonder how much you know, how valuable you are to me. And some of those people will not have good intentions." I wanted to argue, wanted to insist I could take care of myself, but I was not naive enough to believe that anymore. I had just spent a day in the home of a man who maintained armed guards and conducted business that existed in legal gray areas. If people like Javier Cortez saw me as a valuable asset, others might see me as a useful target. "Okay," I said finally. "The secure building, the driver. But I need to be able to see my grandmother whenever I want. That is non-negotiable." "Of course. In fact, I am going to arrange for enhanced security at her care facility as well. Discreet, but effective. No one will get to her to get to you." The care in his voice when he spoke about protecting Abuela undid something in me. This dangerous man, this criminal who conducted illegal business across international borders, was offering to protect my grandmother because she mattered to me. That meant something. Maybe it should not have, but it did. "Thank you," I said quietly, "for everything. I know I am in way over my head here, but thank you for making me feel like I matter, like I am more than just a useful tool." Dante reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering against my cheek. "You matter, Elena Rodriguez. More than you know. More than might be wise for either of us." His hand dropped and he moved back to his seat, the moment of intimacy passing. But something had shifted between us, an acknowledgement of connection that went beyond employer and employee, beyond criminal and reluctant accomplice. Something that felt dangerous and inevitable in equal measure. The secure apartment Dante arranged was stunning, an entire floor of a building in Tribeca, with views of the Hudson River and security that would make a fortress jealous. I moved in the following week, bringing my few possessions from Queens. The contrast between my old studio and this space was almost comical. I went from 400 square feet to 4,000, from furniture I had found on the street to designer pieces that probably had waiting lists. But the luxury came with constant reminders of the reality I now inhabited. The security guard who rode the elevator with me, the driver who waited whenever I needed to go anywhere, the panic button installed in every room. I was safe, but I was also contained. My work evolved quickly after Colombia. Dante relied on me for more than just translation. He asked my opinion on business proposals, requested that I sit in on strategy meetings, brought me to dinners where I served as much as an advisor as a translator. His associates began treating me with the same deference they showed Dante, which was both flattering and terrifying. It was 3 months into my new living situation when everything came crashing down. I was working late in my home office, reviewing contracts for a shipping agreement, when my phone rang. Dante's private line. "Elena." His voice was tight, controlled in a way that screamed danger. "I need you to listen very carefully. There are people coming to your building. They are not my people. Do exactly as I say." My blood ran cold. "What people? What is happening?" "No time to explain. There is a panic room behind the bookshelf in your bedroom. The second shelf from the top. Press the spine of the red book. The shelf will slide open. Get inside and do not come out until I come for you personally. Do you understand? Dante, you are scaring me. What is going on? Now, Elena. Move now." I could hear urgency and something like fear in his voice. "I am 10 minutes away. Just stay hidden until I get there." The line went dead. I ran to my bedroom, my hands shaking as I found the red book and pressed it. The bookshelf swung inward, revealing a small room, maybe 6 by 8 feet, with supplies, a phone, a screen showing security camera feeds from around the building. I stumbled inside and the shelf swung shut behind me, sealing me in darkness except for the glow of the security screens. On the monitors, I could see 4 men entering the building's lobby. They moved with purpose, and I caught the glint of weapons beneath their jackets. My phone buzzed. A text from Dante. "I am here. Stay hidden until you hear my voice." The next 15 minutes were the longest of my life. On the security screens, I watched Dante enter the building with his own security team. Watched as they confronted the 4 intruders in the lobby. Voices were raised. Weapons were drawn. And then, shockingly, the intruders were leaving, escorted out by Dante's men. 10 minutes later, Dante's voice came through the door. "Elena, it is me. You can come out now." I pressed the release button and the shelf swung open. Dante stood in my bedroom, his suit jacket off, his shirt slightly rumpled. Blood stained his knuckles. He looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. Vulnerability, fear, relief. "Are you hurt?" he asked, moving toward me quickly. "No, I am fine. What happened?" Those men were sent by one of my competitors, someone who thinks taking you would give them leverage over me. He cupped my face in his hands. They were right to think that, Elena. You have become— He stopped, struggling with the words. You have become important to me, more important than is wise or safe. I stared up at him, seeing past the dangerous exterior to the man beneath, a man who had just risked himself to protect me, who had built a panic room in my apartment before I even knew I might need one, who looked at me like I was precious rather than convenient. Dante, I whispered, what are we doing here? This is so far beyond a working relationship. I know. His thumb brushed my cheek. I know it is complicated. Know it is dangerous. Know I should not feel this way about you. But I do, Elena. I have since that first night when you spoke Spanish to protect that busboy. Since I saw you make a choice that cost you something to help someone else. You are everything I did not know I needed. Before I could respond, he was kissing me. Not gentle, not tentative, but desperate and claiming and full of emotion neither of us had acknowledged until now. I kissed him back, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. This was wrong on so many levels. He was a criminal. I was compromised. We were entangled in a world that could destroy us both. But in that moment, none of that mattered. Only this. Only us. Only the feeling of finally being seen and valued and wanted by someone who knew all my flaws and choices and still thought I was worth protecting. When we finally broke apart, Dante rested his forehead against mine. I cannot offer you a normal life, Elena. Cannot promise you safety or simplicity or anything resembling conventional happiness, but I can promise you this. I will protect you with everything I have, will value you above anyone else, will never treat you as anything less than my equal and my partner. I am already in your world, Dante, I responded. Already compromised. Already complicit. The question is not whether I stay in it. The question is whether I embrace it fully or keep pretending I have one foot out. And what is your answer? I am done pretending. I kissed him again. I choose this. Choose you. Choose all of it. Consequences included. That was the moment everything changed. I was no longer just Dante's employee or translator or reluctant participant in his world. I was his partner in every sense, his advisor, his confidant, and yes, the woman he loved, though it would be weeks before either of us used that word aloud. The attempt on me galvanized Dante. Security around both of us increased dramatically. He identified and dealt with the competitor who had sent those men, dealt with in a way I learned not to ask about, and he brought me even deeper into his business, trusting me with information and decisions that proved just how much my role had evolved. A year after that first night at Salvatore's, when I had spoken Spanish to a busboy and caught the attention of a man I should have avoided, I stood in Dante's office overlooking the city. My city now, the place where I had struggled and survived, and ultimately found a life I never could have imagined. Dante came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. What are you thinking about? How one conversation in Spanish changed everything. How a desperate need for a job led me to you. How every choice I have made since then has led me here. Any regrets? He asked, his voice soft against my ear. I turned in his arms to face him. Not a single one. This life, it is dangerous and complicated and morally ambiguous, but it is mine. I chose it, and I would choose it again. Good. He kissed me gently. Because I am not letting you go, Elena Rodriguez. You spoke to a waiter in Spanish in front of the wrong person that night, and now you are stuck with me. Or you are stuck with me, I countered. I protected Carlos. I made choices that put me on your radar. Maybe you are the one who got caught. Maybe we both did. He agreed. And maybe that is exactly what was supposed to happen. Looking back, I know I should have walked away that first night. Should have refused Dante's job offer. Should have run when I realized what his world really involved. But life is not made of should-haves. It is made of the choices we actually make, the paths we actually take, the people we actually let into our hearts. I am Elena Rodriguez. I spoke Spanish to a waiter in front of a Mafia boss, and he said bring her to my office. That moment changed my life forever, led me into danger and compromise and moral complexity I never anticipated. But it also led me to Dante, to purpose, to a place where I belong and am valued and matter. Is my life perfect? No. Is it safe? Rarely. Is it conventional or respectable or anything my college professors would have recommended? Absolutely not. But it is mine, built on my choices, sustained by my strength, and shared with a man who sees me, not as a possession, but as a partner. That is enough. More than enough. It is everything. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If Elena's story resonated with you, please share it. Stories of choice, of finding belonging in unexpected places, of embracing complexity rather than running from it. These stories matter. They remind us that life rarely follows the path we plan, that sometimes the wrong choice leads to the right place, and that being seen and valued for who we truly are is worth almost any risk. Thank you for being here.